Lovely to see everybody joining us on this last open panel session for the 𝗪𝗠𝗏 mentoring program for 2023. Lovely to have you all joining us, and very excited to have our panelists that have been put together by 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏. Thank you for that, 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗏. My name's 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. For any of you who don't know me, I lead the mentoring program for women in mining South Africa, and it's very exciting to have our panel discussion tonight on the topic of cultivating your personal board of directors. And we're going to be talking about the people that we intentionally and deliberately surround ourselves with, the people that we need to guide us, to encourage us, to mentor us, to challenge us, the people that we seek out to give us advice, to ask us the hard questions, to be the devil's advocates, to be the people who challenge us. And the reason we're talking about this is that so often in our careers, we focus on our own competencies, on our career journey, on where we're going. And often a lot of us, in my experience, get scared of asking for mentors, for reaching out and asking for help. And we get to a point in our careers where we realize we've unintentionally surrounded ourselves by people who aren't necessarily helping us move towards our goals, and sometimes are actually moving us away from our goals. So this month, what we've been talking about in the mentoring program is how to very deliberately and intentionally surround yourself by the people who are going to take you forward in your career. And I think we've all heard the expression, you're the average of the people you surround yourself with. So when you are intentional and deliberate about who you choose to be on your personal board of directors, imagine how magnificent that average of that group of people is going to be. So I'm not going to take up any more time. I'm going to ask 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 to take over here and to introduce the topic a little bit further, and then introduce our panelists, and then we're going to move into our discussion.
Thank you, Bryony. Thank you to every one of you who has taken their time to be part of this call. My name is 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and I will be co-facilitating the session with Bryony Liba. Why did I choose to be a part of this discussion? This is a topic that's so close to my heart because I was never somebody who was intentionally who would have taken a decision to say, I want a mentor, I want a sponsor, or I need a coach. So I've been somebody who's just been alone and just figuring out things by themselves. So when I joined Women in Mining last year as part of their mentee, I decided, okay, I need to really take this serious and actually get my personal board of directors set up so that we can know where we're going. And I'm so excited that it's a journey that we keep on learning. And today I'm so excited that not only myself, but every other lady or every other guy who's part of this call will have the opportunity to at least get to know what is a board of director. Why do I need to have a personal board of director? Because believe it or not, we are the CEO of our own brand. Where you are your brand. So you are the CEO sitting in that boardroom. You will need to have people around you who are going to help you take that brand forward. So with that said, I've got special guests for us today, and I'm so excited to hear their stories, and I'm sure you're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn a lot. These are people that some of them I would just look up on LinkedIn, and their stories would just inspire me, their posts. So it's people that I know, that I've learned from just watching from afar. So I believe that you also take a lot of insight, and yeah, we'll see by the end of the session. So first one, I will introduce to you Mr. Nkululeko Thusini. He's a mechanical engineer, he's a blogger, he's an author, And he documents strategies and tools that help engineers increase their skills and be more impactful at their working places, and also to stand out in their careers. So the name I've sort of given him is Mr. Dear Graduate Engineer. I'm sure you've seen posts every day. He does not miss a day. Dear Graduate Engineer. He's always motivating graduate engineers every day. So you can look him up on LinkedIn. And second one, we have 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗴. 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗴 is one of our mentees this year. So it's so exciting to see her as part of the panelists. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot. She's a senior accountant where she is. The third person we have is Ms. 𝗪𝗠𝗦𝗂𝗪𝗓. Yeah, so this is it's somebody I really look up to. Now she knows. And I follow her on Instagram, so I would always love her energy. Like when I look at her profile, like, you know, this is the kind of a person that I need on my board. So she is that person who's on the board. She doesn't know, now she knows. So she's a mining engineer with 15 years of experience, and she's currently a technical services manager, and she leads a diverse group, a team of professionals. And she was honored in the year 2022. She was honored as a Male and Guardian South African Young Cohort. And also, she was also honored by the IFEEA's Women Rising to the Top in STEM Africa in the same year, 2022. 𝗪𝗠𝗂𝗪𝗂 was also elected as the first president, female president of South African Colliery of Managers Association in 2022. The first one. You gotta give the girl a hand here. And also, it makes her the first woman to hold this position in the organization's 44-year history. She also holds a master's degree qualifications from international universities like your Cambridge and Yale University. She's also the vice president of the University of Pretoria's Convocation Board. And then the last but not least, we have 𝗕𝗿𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗍. 𝗕𝗿𝗂𝗏𝗍𝗍, she's also one of our mentees this year. I'm excited that she's part of the panelists. She's a training manager at Seriti, and she's an MBA candidate. So we've got people who are busy here. Thank you for taking out the time and actually showing up to be a part of this conversation. Maybe to get the conversation started, Bryony, there's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you have to go together. So I would like our panelists to really try to tell us as to who in this journey of life, who have they intentionally surrounded themselves with? The people, because it matters who your circle of people are around, who they are, because our surroundings can either make us or break us. So I would like maybe one of our panelists, or all of our panelists actually, to tell us who have they surrounded themselves with. We're talking about a caliber of people that they want in their board as a CEO. Maybe Nkululeko, you want to go for it?
Good evening. Hi, everyone. Yeah, thank you for the invite. And yeah, so thank you to the two facilitators. Yeah, so to get the conversation started on who have you intentionally surrounded yourself with. So first, before I go into it, I know some people think that like I'm a bot and I'm not a real person that really exists. given so much content that I produce and what have you. So so to those who do follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter, yes, I do exist. Here I am, and let's get the show going. Yeah, so I write a lot about what the question that you just asked, and the what you call the topic of this board of directors. Is just that maybe I haven't really called it a personal board of directors. I was initially introduced to that concept by one of I say he's my mentor, but he doesn't know that he's my mentor. Gugu, he runs a nonprofit called Self Leadership Academy. And yeah, so he does a lot of great work in the what you call with TVET colleges and entrepreneurs and whatever. So what I've seen is that, you know, when it comes to surrounding yourself with the people who you know, can move you forward. When I first sort of subconsciously started that, I actually told my wife to say, listen, I no longer want to interact with these people. Then I designed the avatars of the people that I want to be associated with. And, you know, and then over time, then it became this personal board of directors. So I believe that you need to be very intentional about who you surround yourself with. When I started off working, I think I was not surrounding myself with the right people. I was with people who were always complaining. The sky was always falling. And with that mentality and that approach, I ended up being in a situation where I was, you know, like almost like a rebel, now trying to be a unionist and all of that stuff. And I'm like, okay, at some point, then I realized that this thing is not moving me forward. And then once I started moving towards, you know, intentionally being or surrounding myself with the right type of people, then yeah, so then things started moving forward. But now the question, like especially like you know, I write about this thing of saying the right people and the wrong people, you know, and that other people get offended to say, yeah, but what do you mean the right people and wrong people? I think, and you know, the question has always been, but then how do you know whether the person is the right person or the wrong person? And I always look at it this way to say, well, what are you trying to achieve in your career? And based on what you're trying to achieve in your career, is this person subtracting or adding towards that, you know, the direction that you're trying to take? And if they are either subtracting or they're not moving you anyway, then that's the wrong people, you know. So yeah, but you don't go and tell them you're a wrong person, I don't want to be associated with you. Instead, you know, you slowly gravitate away and move towards that direction. So yeah, so I like this topic. And you know, one of the trainings I did, I think last month, I was doing a GMR development program. So the GMR 2.1, so since this is mining, right? So in the factories, you've got the engineer in charge, and they call those the GMR 2.1 appointees. And then in the mining, you've got the same sort of appointment, which is now the 213.1 appointment, which is the engineer in charge. So in this program, you know, some of the things that we speak about, like right now, what we are speaking about today, I'm sure there's a number of people who are confused and thinking, what the hell is this thing? What the hell is a sponsor? And, you know, when I introduced those topics, and then people were like, just, you know, blown away. So it's good to attend these type of sessions because you start, I guess, being exposed to these concepts like a sponsor. Like, you know, when I heard of the concept of a sponsor, you know, having a sponsor in your life, and then, you know, then trying to unpack it. Okay, how do I get one? Where do I apply?
And will they pay me money?
Will they pay me money? You know,
not those kind of sponsors.
Yes. So like it's very good concepts to sort of you know, especially when you're starting off. So dear graduate engineers, get yourself a sponsor, get yourself a board of directors, and you will start seeing things unpacking. So I'm hoping, or I'm not hoping, I think during the discussion, maybe we can unpack also the definitions to actually explain what this thing is, you know, because you get a mentor, right? So there's a mentor, there's a coach, there's a sponsor, and now there's this board of your personal board of directors. So I'm hoping that one of the panelists or the facilitator can also unpack that to say, well, what's the difference between all of those?
We're absolutely going to unpack those roles. Great way to start the conversation. Thanks, Mpho. Carmel, do you want to jump in and add to that?
Yes, so also I share Mpho. It's subconsciously you did develop this board of people, and I think when everyone goes back after this session, they're going to see that they actually had these people surrounding them. And for me, it was important to have people that could tell me the hard truths that I surrounded myself with. Those that were ambitious and didn't allow any room for complacency. I like the big thinkers because they changed my perspective. As an accountant, I was by the rule book. This is what I need to do. This is my job, and these are the rules. And when I started to see the people I was surrounding myself with, how they were transforming their roles to be of value to the company. And they just had high levels of integrity, and they were wise. And these are people I wanted to surround myself with in my career. So up until today, I've intentionally chosen these people, even to follow them on social media. What do they do in their personal lives? What gives them this drive in their daily life?
Wonderful. Thanks, Carmel. There's a point that I want to draw out of that, because often we talk about having a personal board of directors of people who we know and they know us. But there's already a few kind of comments coming out that your personal board of directors doesn't have to be made up of people that you actually know. For instance, a lot of us might be following Mpho and have him on our personal board of directors by virtue of the things that he says on LinkedIn. Okay? And similarly with Nozipho and Thembeka and Carmel, everybody has something to contribute. And sometimes when we are intentional in looking on a daily basis for who we can learn from, we're actually building our personal board of directors without them actually having to know that they're part of it. So I'm wondering, Nozipho, if you maybe want to build on that in terms of who might be on your personal board of directors that doesn't know that they're there?
Sure. Is my sound clear now? Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Perfect. Look, I think I resonate with Nkululeko and Carmel as well about how it was not intentional. But you kind of know people that you share the same values with, and they're in the direction that you at least want to take, and you'll start following them, whether it's intentional, through sessions, or even just watching their lives and how they turn to live their lives. But people that would not know that they are my personal board of directors, I think I draw a lot from decisions that my leaders make, and particularly senior leadership. And I try to understand how they made that decision. How do they get to that process? So without them knowing that specific decision that was made and how they approach something, I've actually learned from it, So I think for me, that's been the biggest one, to just reflect on daily decision making, or decisions that people I look up to may have made, and trying to, to map out that process that they would have followed. But I also really do try to reach out to people, even though I've never met them. I think I follow a few great women, mothers, but who are also kicking us in the corporate world. And I'll follow them on Instagram or even on LinkedIn, and I would reach out and ask for coffee dates. And more times than not, people are actually willing to meet up, and you get to meet awesome people, but also make good friendships with people that, you could tap on for wisdom at certain parts of your life, or when you need to make certain decision making. One specific boss I had previously, when he was my physical boss, I did not agree with a lot of decisions that he made. But when he left, and I was reflecting actually on all the stuff that we had accomplished with him, I was like, okay. Now I see it. So I draw a lot of inspiration, I suppose, from learning after the fact.
Yeah. I think that's a lovely point. It's the idea of learning after the fact, that perhaps part of your board of directors is having a role on there around what can you learn years later by observing, by reflecting, etc. And that might be your kind of your inner voice might be part of your board of directors.
No, certainly.
You've mentioned the point about reaching out and connecting with people, and I think that's so often one of the things that people struggle to do. And I kind of heard in your voice a little bit of a surprise around, I reached out and I actually said yes. And I want to ask 𝗕𝗿𝗂 if maybe you want to elaborate on that in terms of reaching out, asking for help, talking to people that can add value in your career, but that you don't necessarily know.
Hi everyone, definitely Brioni. So when Nosipho says this, I smile because I've always been the girl who plays small. I'm always behind the scenes. I will not go to people. I'll stay, in the level that I'm comfortable with, until I got to a point where I thought, okay, you're playing small actually doesn't help. So in the journey of reaching out, Nosy, there's this guy that is at corporate. So we don't really go to corporate that much. And he's wonderful. His presentations are on point. When he talks, he commands attention. I'll go to head office this one time and he's there and I decide, why not? I'm like, hi, my name is 𝗕𝗿𝗂𝗏𝗏. I'm the new training manager. He goes, hi, do I know you? I'm like, no, I met you when you presented X, Y, and Z, but I would really love to have, a minute of your time, another time, not today, and just have a conversation. Because I realized that me surrounding myself with just the people that I've been with forever doesn't grow me. It doesn't take me out of that comfort zone. It doesn't actually push me. My boss that got me here, who acts as a sponsor, she actually said, stop playing small. And you then learn to say, okay, there's somebody right there who's encouraging you, or there's somebody that you're watching, like how I watch the guy who does these things, and you think to yourself, but this is good, I could learn from it. So definitely, I'm actually intrigued by Nosy, who goes to the point of saying, reach out on LinkedIn. It's a lesson. It's something that I will take on and say, yes, you definitely can do this. So the board of directors in my life, I had never defined. But as I meet certain people, it's making sense to say, okay, what value do I gain from this person, or what value can I give? Because sometimes we also underestimate the things that we bring to the table. So yeah, definitely, that's what I learned from it.
Wonderful.
Sure. Wow, Brainy, maybe just to chip in there. I think the sense that I'm getting from our panelists here is they have a strong sense of self-awareness. They know who they are. You can't just rock up and be asking people for coffee dates. It's somebody who really knows who they are. I mean, and when Kruleka was saying that he had to decide who are the good, who are the bad people, he knew who he is, where he fallen into those two categories. And I think that this is quite exciting. And maybe one would ask her how important it is in this journey where you're trying to build a support system like your board of directors, how important it is for you guys to know, for a person to be self-aware and not be tossed to and fro, not knowing what to do because they don't know who they are.
Yeah, I think just to go in there, okay, right now, I know I might speak a lot about Ukuku because he introduced me to this concept, and he's currently my biggest mentor and who's in my board. He mentioned this other thing the other day. Just to get to the question that you're asking, that when we look at one of the mistakes, especially as technical people, that we make, or career-focused people that we make, is that when we looking for mentors and setting up these personal boards, we often have it skewed too much on career progress. So you would want what you call a lot of people in that board who are either you're aspiring for that position or whatever. But you mentioned a very nice thing to say, well, actually, you in your board, you also need someone in fitness, someone in to speak to your mental health, someone to speak to your what you call your what you're eating, a chef. So the platform that they're building, basically, it's sort of doing that. So they're building this app where you can go and set up your own personal board of directors, and how they're setting it up is they're pushing people to say, no, we don't want you to select only people who are like in your field. So if you're in mining, now you want to have a whole bunch of mining engineers and mine managers, and then you know, so have someone to look after your not look after, but personal finance. If you want to go into business, as someone who's entrepreneurial. If you are a mother, you know, someone who has been a mother and sort of navigated corporate life, you know. So yeah, I think in setting up this personal board of directors, try not to like sort of skew it too much on what you are doing. Consider every aspect of your life, you know, because one of the things that I always say that, you know, your career success, you know, about 10 to 20% of it, it's the technical stuff that you're doing at work and your technical competency and all of that. But if you are not physically fit, you can't do anything. If you're not mentally, your mental health, you know, is in shambles, then it speaks to this issue of like confidence, self-awareness. And because confidence, self-awareness is a mental health thing, you know. And if you are seeing that I've got an issue or a shortfall in confidence and self-awareness, but you know, as Noor said, to say, well, 𝗕𝗿𝗂 was saying that, you know, she saw this guy doing great presentations, and like, I want to do great presentations, you know. So then you go and then you add that person to it, you know. So I think like that self-awareness of seeing, you know, what's pulling you back, you know. Sometimes like I come back to fitness, mental health, because like it's those things that, you know, you don't realize that actually this is what, you know, killing, you know, slowing you down, not killing you, but slowing you down from actually progressing. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think you've already opened up the discussion around different dimensions of diversity and different ways in which we can slice and dice who we have on our board. And I can see 𝗕𝗿𝗂's got her hand up. So before we go any further, 𝗕𝗿𝗂, we want to hear from you.
He just touched something on you know, having an understanding of your mental awareness. So self-awareness, it's all encompassing. And sometimes if you don't take the time to sort of stop, pause, and understand what triggers you, what it is that, you know, forces you to move into different dimensions, you actually lose value. So a story that I just want to share when it comes to self-awareness is earlier on last year, I meet this guy. So I love leading young girls. I want to do this. I'm thinking, okay, I can learn from this guy and do coaching. And he's a coach and a mentor. I'm like, can you coach me? And he does. But out of those sessions, I learned nothing about coaching others. I went on a journey of understanding the things that I had not dealt with from childhood. The things that I had bottled up that caused me to, if Nozipho or if Ndamu said something, I would burst out because I have not dealt with those. So I went on a journey of self-acceptance, of forgiveness, and understanding the triggers. So self-awareness, it's actually a very important concept that we don't really know about, but when you do go on that journey, you start accepting things and not being easily triggered by things that shouldn't trigger you. So Nkululeko just, you know, he sparked that conversation out of me.
Beautiful. And it's a lifelong journey. It's not something that we go on the journey and then we arrive at the destination. Self-awareness is forever evolving. Oh, Nozipho, you've got your hand up, but you've also frozen. So I think we're going to come back to you once you've unfrozen. Carmel, anything you want to add around self-awareness and how your personal board of directors has catapulted your self-awareness?
Yeah, definitely. I think self-awareness is something that I always put at the back foot. And when I did have a mentor and my previous boss, he would start with questions in the morning, like, how is your health? How is your family? You look a bit down today, and then you started to become self-aware. Okay, noticing all of these things, is it affecting my work? And that's how I sort of started with my self-awareness. Do I have a bad day at home? Do I bring it to work? How can I start being better and not let this affect me? Or how can I cope with this? So with my board of directors, the questions that they did ask and the intention of them wanting to be involved in your personal life and understand what your triggers are, that helped create the self-awareness.
Yeah, it's, you know, my personal self-awareness journey catapulted when I started surrounding myself with people who are very different to me. People who look different, sound different, work in different areas, think differently, and people who were courageous enough to challenge me on my thinking. And it's very easy for all of us to get stuck in our own personal frameworks. And it's very hard. It takes a lot of courage to intentionally surround yourself with different and with people who will challenge you and people who will maybe even ask some quite personal questions. And so I really want to explore dimensions of diversity a little bit more, because it's very easy to get caught up in only looking within your kind of close circle. And I want to get a sense of the different types of diverse dimensions you've intentionally looked for in your lives. And I know for me, a devil's advocate has been the most important dimension of diversity for me, because it's a different way of thinking and really kind of shaking and rattling my cage. And Khululeko, I want to get a sense of the different diverse dimensions that you've looked for in your board.
So before I get to the dimensions, I just want to mention the thing about balance, right? Because the balance part then will speak to the dimensions part. First of all, I think I don't believe in the concept of balancing, right? To say, well, I must balance fitness, I must balance mental health, career development, and so forth. But instead, the way I look at it is to say, well, in your life, for me, I find it better that you just have those pockets of times where you deal with the different things. And because balancing, what I've seen is that if you say, well, I want to balance family and work, then you go on a holiday and then you come with your laptop and now you are balancing this family and work. Whereas if you change the concept to say, well, I will just have pockets of time where I deal with the different things, then I found for myself being much better. So if it's a time to work on my diet, then this is what we're doing, we are cooking. If it's time for family, it's time for family, we are doing that. So so to add that diversity, I think that's how I sort of thought about it. And to add the diversity, the conversation that we're having on self-awareness becomes very important, because how would you know what diversity do you need to bring into your board if you don't know or you're not self-aware of your shortcomings, right? So if you are self-aware that, okay, you know what, I've got my family, if I've got family issues or personal issues, I bring them into work. But it takes self-awareness to recognize those type of things, and then starting to think about, okay, but then how do I then deal with that? Then you try to get the person that can come in to try to deal with that part.
But it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, isn't it? Because you learn about yourself in relation to other people and the feedback that they give you. And you also learn about yourself by reflecting on things that have triggered you and things that you've struggled with. And so I don't believe we can be self-aware and then get the right board. I think it's an iterative process, right?
That's correct. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely, and I think for the attendees today, it's not going to happen overnight, because you know, like one of the things that I've always struggled with has been this thing of seeing like this mentor, this amazing person, and then and when they tell you their life and their story, and then you like, oh my gosh, okay, tomorrow, next week I'm gonna be like that. And then if you have like that microwave mentality, then you know, then you drop off a lot of these things. So today we're speaking about this board, personal board of directors. So someone might today and tomorrow and next week, like, yeah, I'm setting it up, I'm choosing this person and what have you, and then a week or 2 weeks later, then you're like, but this you're not seeing any movement in your career. Then you realize, and then you start thinking that no, this thing doesn't work. So I think the message is, this thing is like a long-term investment that you need to yeah, think about it that way.
Yeah, our lives and our careers are a marathon, and over the course of that marathon, our goals change. What we put effort into is going to change. Who we surround ourselves with is going to change, and it keeps on evolving as we go. And so, yeah, go for it.
No, I wanted to add something to what you said earlier on, that you need someone who can tell you, or who will tell you that you are now going astray and so forth. Now, the big thing is, especially for the graduates who are starting to work out, no one cares about you in the work environment, and no one is going to tell you, you know, no one is going to tell you to say, hey, you are moving in the wrong direction and what have you. So so it helps having the people who can be honest with you, and when you have people that are honest with you, then that's where the self-awareness sort of starts kicking in. And if you don't have those honest people who can tell you, then that's where you get coaches, because career coaches, they are able to tell you, to be honest with you, to say, yeah, but why are you thinking like that? Why are you belittling yourself? Why are you understand? So yeah, I think that's what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you. Kamel, your hand's up.
I wanted to add on that last bit. That would be my first piece of advice for everyone starting in their career. And I see the comment in the box. Be teachable. As soon as you get into your career, you can't do it on your own. It does take a village. It really does. And the corporate world is cruel, but there are people in there that will help you make it. So just to add on that, this point is really important. You can't build your board of directors, be teachable, learn from those around you. I think most of us read books with our famous people and those who give us advice. How much more valuable when you surround yourself with those people?
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. We have to be curious. We have to be open. We have to ask questions. We have to show that we are learning from the feedback, the guidance, the advice that people give us early on in our career, because the more we reciprocate their energy, the more energy they're going to give to our learning journey. Thembeka, do you want to add to that?
Definitely. And as we start off in our careers, we are afraid most of the time. What if I do it wrong? What if I say it wrong? But if you get the feedback and you don't personalize it, it builds you. And as you continue, Nkululeko says nobody cares about you. It's true. But there's always that one person. Usually they're a training manager, but there's always that one person, who has it out for you to say, listen, but most of the time as young professionals, we're thinking, oh, but I know everything. I've got the technical know-how. I've also learned, they say as you go up the ladder, it's politics, how you handle politics. It's not necessarily politics. It's being able to forge relationships, to be able to interact with people at different level and understand this is how I approach this particular person at that level. So definitely, Carmel is right, be teachable. And also your strengths change. I was a young, afraid girl. I'm not that afraid anymore. I might still have some fear, but my strengths have changed. I told the group the last week, say, now I walk into the room and I own it. You know, so as your strengths change, you find that whatever you're learning, you build on it, and your self-awareness increases there, because now you realize, but there's no need to, be afraid of that. And if you are afraid, you can mask it and go on, because sometimes you have to do that. But definitely be teachable and identify what lessons are being given to you and what has that person learned really for you to learn from it. So definitely be teachable.
Oh, so many pearls of wisdom coming out. Ndamu.
Yeah, I just love what Thembeka just said right now, that obviously when we start off afraid. We don't know what to do. We don't know who to ask for help. What I would ask is, at what point, Thembeka, did you realize that the people that I need to surround myself with have to be going to the same direction? At what point, what had triggered that decision to say, I actually need the right people in my corner? What had happened?
I was comfortable. I was comfortable with hiding. And I think my biggest trigger was acting. So I had to act in a role where nobody else was available. It's like, just take this. So I couldn't be behind the scenes. Last week we spoke about the photos. I'll always be at the back. So I couldn't. So pressure at that time said, you need to be out of your comfort zone. So when I observed and I looked at my boss at the time, and I thought, but she's always out there. What is it that she is doing differently that I need to start taking into account? The one thing that I do have is 3 good friends that have become family, who play a role of devil's advocate, mentor, and sometimes they tell me the truth as it is. So as I spoke to them and said, you know what, I'm struggling with this and I keep playing small. I can see it. I can't keep quiet anymore. They were like, yes, you definitely. And then they gave me the feedback, the bad feedback. You're like, oh, I don't want to watch. You can't say that. But it was definitely a point where I was thrown in the deep end. And I couldn't, the role didn't require me to play small anymore. So that's how I needed to change how I did things.
Yay for stepping up and playing big.
Yeah.
So
sure,
can
I
we
love
unpack, sorry, Ndamu, can we unpack some of the roles on your board of directors? And I've posted a blog that I wrote a while ago about 10 roles that I think we need to have on our personal board of directors. But as Nkululeko said quite clearly, our boards are going to look very different to each other's, and they're personal. So you need to define for yourself who you want on your board. But I really want us to unpack some of the key roles, like a sponsor. So let's start there. Sponsor, mentor, and then go into some of the other roles that we might need. A sponsor is not somebody who's sponsoring your career by paying for it with money. So Nkululeko, please unpack for us. What is a sponsor? What do they do? And where do you find them?
Yeah, so the sponsor, to maybe try to define it simply, it's that person who will speak great of you in rooms that you're not there, right? So if in your career, as you progress your career, have you heard the more experienced people saying that, well, I did not even apply for that job. I was just called and then I was in an interview and then tomorrow I had the job. So whoever, sometimes you never know how it got there, but there was someone that sometimes sometimes you don't even know, who speaks so highly of you in rooms where you're not there, in in these late night dinners, in social gatherings, and they're like, no man, that person, yeah man, he's great and he can do this thing. And one of the weird questions, not weird, but the question that I once trying to explain this concept, and one of the candidates was like, yeah, so where do I get these sponsors? how do I ask them to sponsor me and all of that? And then that then led to I'll try to find the post that I wrote regarding this, to say that, well, you don't really go and ask someone to be your sponsor, right? So the framework that I sort of unpacked was to say, you need to be known to be good at something, right? So I think that's where it sort of starts. You need to be known at something. What are you good at? You know, if you're in HR, like 𝗕𝗿𝗂𝗏, what are you great at? Are you, so, and for you to get to a point where you are great at something, I always say, well, number one, choose a path that you want to take, right? And then once you chose that path, niche down. And once you niche down, and then you work on that niche and those skills, and then you start communicating it. So if you know that you are here right now, you are a mechanical or electrical engineer or a mine engineer. So if you're mechanical, electrical, you're like, okay, well, I want to be an engineer in charge appointee in the next 5 years. Well, number one, niche down into being that competent person. Then number two, work on the skills to get the gatekeeping qualifications and certifications. And then after that, you everywhere and where you have a chance to speak about it, talk about that. This is what I want. But you speaking about that, it needs to be backed by like the contribution that you do, right? So are you able to increase the reliability of a plant? Do you understand the production, the process of whatever you're doing, right? Do you understand how to lead a team? And when these indirect sponsors see that, hey, actually that person has the potential, then that's how you then get those sponsors. So with sponsors, I think I've got plenty of sponsors, and some of them I don't know, some of them they just like right now, me being here right now, 𝗪𝗏𝗡𝗏 is my sponsor, right? Like I'm here right now because of her, because she saw me somewhere and she she thought whatever I was talking about was great and it can benefit this platform. And she was in a room where I wasn't in it, and she spoke well of me, and I'm here today, and including all the panelists who are here today, indirectly, not indirectly, directly, 𝗪𝗏𝗡𝗏 is our sponsor, right? So it would have not been possible without her. So yeah, so if you look at sponsors that way, then it becomes easier to like understand that concept of saying what is a sponsor. So in short, don't go and say, hey, you are a mine manager, right? Engineering manager. I want you to be my sponsor, and I want you to, speak for me, in these rooms that I'm not invited. But rather, show your worth and then communicate your worth so that the potential sponsors might know who you are.
Absolutely. I think the communicate your worth is one of the most important things here, because there are a lot of people who are really good at what they do, but when they don't make themselves visible, when they don't share value into their network, and when they don't build their relationships, doesn't matter how good you are, the further you go up in your career, the more you have to build strong relationships and advocate for yourself so that others can then advocate for you too. And I think the other thing here with sponsors is when somebody is sponsoring you, they are putting their name on the line for you. And so you have to be impeccable in how you show up. You have to reciprocate their confidence in you. And this is going back to Carmel's point about be teachable. You have to demonstrate that every single thing that happens in your career is a learning and teaching moment for you, and that you're integrating that and growing from everything. Because sponsors aren't looking for perfect people. They're looking for people who are learning and growing and taking the initiative in their own careers, and who, when they speak for them, it's like a TripAdvisor kind of recommendation. This is somewhere that I highly recommend you go to. And if you take my advice, you're going to have a great time. And when I take that person's advice and I have a really crappy time, I know to go back to that person and say, what on earth were you talking about? So it's hard for people to sponsor others when they don't know those people well. So make yourself known and build really good relationships with people.
Can I just add one last thing there? You know, because I'm aware, or when I did my research, majority of the people here are engineers. And what I know about engineers is that we are terrible communicators. Terrible communicators. So whatever you do after today, try to go learn how to be a better communicator. And the other thing, linking back to the earlier discussion of the right and the wrong people. I used to work for Sasol, and at Sasol, I think that I was a great engineer, and I came up with solutions, and I got frustrated in that environment because I wasn't getting the promotions, but the other people who had less qualifications than me, less experience than me, who were contributing less than me, were actually progressing. But now in that time, I was with a group of engineers and people who there was this concept that we used to use, which is called perception management, right? So so they will always say, no, look at that guy and that guy. You see, they are climbing in meetings. You know, they will say certain things, and that was seen as a bad thing. You know, having this thing of perception management. So basically, even if you don't know something, but you are able to communicate, even when you know there's a solution. You know what the solution is, but you don't communicate it and so forth. And then we used to look at them as, these people they're doing perception management. Now, in hindsight, now that I left Sasol and I am where I am today, I realized that, you know, if I did not have that thing of, or did not hang around with that group that shun upon this perception management, I would have climbed the, you know, that corporate ladder. Today, or this week, there was that announcement that what's his name, Simon Baloyi got appointed as the Chief Executive Officer at Sasol Group, right? And the funny thing is, I used to work with Sasol and with Simon at Sasol, and at that time when I was working with him, he was the operations manager. And I remember that even at that time, like, he was known as this guy who's, you know, this one is great with perception management. You know, he's always talking. But look at him today. You know, he's group CEO just because he understands. He was great at seeing and picking moments of coming up with solutions. And at those moments, then he became a superstar at Sasol, you know, and that's where he is today. So this thing of shining on other people and saying, these ones, they trying to be, you know, the teacher's favorite and whatever, you forget about that mentality. You also want to be the teacher's favorite. So go do perception management and communicate your worth and communicate that, no, I came up with that, and, you know, take ownership of that thing.
Beautiful advice. Align the people you surround yourself with the goals that you have. If you want to stay small, surround yourself with people who are jealous of everybody's success. If you want to play big, hang out with people who really challenge your thinking and who show you how to step out of your comfort zone and be bigger than you are. And that's not about having a big head. It's about having courage to take the risks, to fail at things, to learn from failure, to grow from failure, to expand your bank of experience and network and repertoire. But so often we surround ourselves, and I say this from a personal perspective, because I remember early on in my career, I intentionally surrounded myself with people who didn't challenge me, because I was tired of having to have kind of hard intellectual conversations, and I just wanted to kind of I don't want to say dumb down, but I wanted to kind of give myself a bit of a mental break. And I surrounded myself with people who didn't challenge me at all. And it's one of the biggest mistakes that I made, because it enabled me to really be quite lonely and quite lazy in my thinking. Let's talk about another role. We've mentors, coaches. 𝗕𝗿𝗂, Carmel, do you want to share your well, we don't have to unpack those particular roles, but I want you to unpack a specific role on a personal board of directors that you think is pivotal to achieving your goals in your career.
Okay, I'll go for it. So today when I had to do my bio for Nndavu, so I sat there and I thought, if there was one role that I held as in a board of directors, what would it be? And I stuck with mentor, coach, the normal ones, and then it was encourager. But I had a discussion with one of my colleagues, and I said, do you think I'm an encourager? I think I am, and she said, no, a motivator. Then I got this distinction between the two. So a motivator is someone that inspires the next person and makes them eager to perform better. Whereas an encourager is someone who persuades people to do what they need to do. And I sat and I thought, that's actually one of the roles that I want in my life, and one of the roles that I want to continue to hold, where I inspire people to want to achieve big things, inspire people to want to go out there and do something. Don't do it because now you've been, somebody has said, okay, I'm encouraging you, please do it, please do it. So that's the role, Brioni, for me that stands out completely right now, to say, can you motivate the next person? Let them find the passion within themselves to do the next great thing. Yeah, so that's what I have to offer.
I love that. I think so often when we have somebody who motivates us to be more than we are, we rise to the occasion. When we are with people who believe, well, you live to the level that you're at, we stay stuck at the level that we're at. So absolutely, being and having people who motivate us is crucial. Thanks,
yes,
𝗕𝗿𝗂.
So that's the one person I want to add on to my network.
I love it. Carmel.
So I'm going to go in the opposite direction. For me, it's the devil's advocate. I like to be challenged in my thinking. I like to be rattled a bit. And for me, that's the person that's had the most effect on my board of directors. To take me out of that comfort zone, to get me to thinking. And from there, I developed the culture of innovating, developing systems, thinking, how can I make this easier? So for me, the devil's advocate was one person that on my board. I'm going to look at again. I do think I want 2 devil advocates on my board, just to expand my thinking and diversify a bit.
And so devil's advocates are people who poke holes in your theories so that you cover every single base, so that you don't ever go into anything not having seen the full picture. And I absolutely think we need those people, but it takes a lot of courage to be a devil's advocate, because often we can be quite defensive when somebody's poking holes in our theories. And so it's on us to reward the devil's advocates in our lives for really challenging our thinking, and not just asking hard questions, but actually saying, no, I see this in a completely different way, and you need to expand how you're looking at this. And Damu, who's your favorite role on the board of directors?
I think my favorite role is the information sharer. I think we're living in times where a lot of people, you find that they withhold information to themselves. So when you find that one person that says, hey, have you heard about this? Do you know about this course? I want you to actually register. This is how you do it. Can you go for this conference? So for me, that person is very important because they also exposing you to different opportunities, different platforms where maybe other people might see you and actually like you. So for me, that person is an information sharer is somebody that I'm vibing with now. Yeah.
Vibing with, I love it. And you know what, it's an important one because we live in a world of information overload. And so to have people point us in the direction of things that they know are going to be valuable to us is really, really crucial. It's a huge time saver. We can't know everything all the time. 𝗕𝗿𝗂𝗧.
Just on the information sharer, I think it's one of the roles we take for granted. So in the mining industry, we all know people want to hold their roles. They're so afraid that if they just share this with you, you know, you might take over or you might be the next better thing. But I think as we sit here today and we aspire to grow, we wouldn't have learned from Nkululeko, for example, if he wasn't willing to share his information. So Ndamu, really, I'll personalize this. I want to be that person who never withholds information that can help the next person. So definitely, yeah.
Beautiful. I want to add one more here, and I think this is I wouldn't say it's my favorite role on the board of directors, but it's one that has been quite pivotal in building my self-awareness, and that's the anti-mentor. Because the role of the anti-mentor, and nobody ever wants to know that they're the anti-mentor, but the role of the anti-mentor on your board is someone who might be brilliant at what they do, but they do it in a way that you never, ever want to be seen to be doing it. And the anti-mentors are the people who we recognize as a part of who we are, because we know that when we are in the worst version of ourselves, we have the risk of stepping into the awful way in which they show up. And for me, it's been a huge role of self-awareness, because I've seen aspects of myself in other people, and I've seen how their behaviors have been really destructive, and how when I'm in a really, really bad space, how I have the propensity to show up like that, and how destructive I could be if I'm not aware of who I am. So as much as you don't ever want to walk around and say, hey, you're the anti-mentor on my board, I really want to encourage you to be very intentional at looking at people and noticing when somebody triggers you. Often they're triggering you because there's an aspect of how they show up that is very relevant and quite painful for yourself, because you know that there's an element of truth in that behavior within you. And Nkululeko, your hand went up really quickly there.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what you're saying, and also to what Melolo was saying as well. To say, you know, okay, so for the anti-mentor, linking it with the information sharer. So my advice is, don't be the knowledge thief. You know, like whatever you do, don't be a knowledge thief. Because I think we need to you know, be aware of like the ages in careers in general, right? So there was a time in careers where information was king, and if you've got information, then you know, you've got the, you know, the power, you know. So for example, if you look at companies like Google, Facebook, they became what they became because of information, right? So, and that then obviously, not obviously, but people in general, one of the reasons why they are knowledge thieves and they never want to share with the next person is that they think that, well, if this person has this information that I have, then they will surpass me in my career. But yes, that used to be the case, especially when we look at like these gatekeeping qualifications, gatekeeping certifications, information, and so forth, right? But now, in today's time, you know, I like saying that now that was the before the currency was information. In today's time, the currency is attention, right? So if you can be able to get the attention of the right people, because there's people who are sitting information, but they can't use that information because they can't get the right type of people to get the attention so that they can progress with this thing, right? So really what the anti-mentors who are knowledge thieves are basically saying is that, well, I knew that if I get my GCC mines, I can get a 213(1) position and get 2 million per annum, but then they will hold that, you know, but only to find that a young energetic junior comes, they get it and they surpass them because that junior understood that attention is the currency of today, right? So yeah, so just something that I wanted to add to combine those the anti and the information.
I think that's a really important point, and I'm hoping that you can elaborate on how to get attention.
Yeah, so the attention, it depends now what way you're trying to go, right? So if we start with let's say you're a junior and looking for opportunities to say maybe you're a graduate, new graduate, you're looking for a job, or you are a junior looking for a job, then how the way that I've seen it work for me is yes, niching down your communication. Choose your path, niche down your communication, and then know where to communicate this thing, right? So in today's time, where do you communicate this thing? LinkedIn, you join forums like this, you become a presenter, you go to seminars, you present your information, right? Because once you present your information in those platforms, then you start then increasing your chances of this information landing on the people that need to hear that, right? So on my side, I think trying to and having that self-awareness that the information that you have is actually worthy is also important. You know, I had all this information about GCC factories, and I thought at some point I was very subconscious about it, and I didn't think that it was worthy, and I didn't think that it's what people wanted to hear, you know. But the more I spoke about it, the more I realized that actually a lot of people want to hear this thing and they don't have this thing and they want this thing. And by virtue of that communication, then I'm ending up getting invited in all these different forums, communicating this thing, which now in communicating this thing, getting the right type of attention. With that attention, then we're what you call, as a business, we are growing. But now if you are in mining and you're saying, well, I want to be a 213(1) in the future, so then how do you position yourself to get attention? Well, you join the SHE-REP committees, you get involved with the investigations, you raise your hand to go present the findings. You when the inspectors is coming, you want to be in the face of the inspector, you want to share information with the inspector, you want the inspector to be the one saying to your CEO, hey, actually there was a young lady who was helping me out there. Hey, what's her name? Oh, yes. You know, so now you are getting now the attention in the right areas indirectly. You know, so today we had some strategy session, and trying to advise some of the other entrepreneurs. So it was like a bunch of entrepreneurs, and the concept there was that hey, in today's time, you must be connected, and you must have the executives for you to get business and what have you. And and you know, and there was one of the guy who's a journalist, and I was saying to him that no, and he likes this thing of decolonization and decolonizing your brain and what have you. And I was saying, well, you need to decolonize your approach as well, because in today's time, it's the attention that is important. But because some of the things that we are selling as a business, it's not the CEO who's using it. It's not the executive who's using it. It's not even the managers. Like with GCC, I don't even target HR managers because I know that they are not using this thing. So you target who? The person who's using it, and get their attention, and then they go tell the HR manager, hey, we want to use this guy, you know, and then that's how it sort of works out, you know. So if wherever you are right now, think about it that way, to say, okay, if I want to climb up the corporate ladder, right? So what's the next step? Who's that next customer of mine, right? Then that's the attention that you need to be getting. Not necessarily that you must get connections with the CEO or the executive or whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely. You need to know who your audience is. You need to know who your stakeholders are. You need to know what they value, and you need to show them value. Getting attention and advocating for yourself is never around saying, look at me, I'm so amazing. It's around sharing your knowledge, your expertise, your value, your offering in a way that builds value for others and for the right people at the right time. And that's about putting yourself out there and connecting with people, spending time getting to know other people. And I think that for me, that's such an important point, because we spend so much time focusing inwards and never enough time focusing outwards on knowing who's in my network. Who do I need to make sure is in my network? What do they value, and how do I serve them the best value possible? So that when I need something, they're all going, of course, we will speak for you. Of course, we want you. Of course, we need you. Thank God you're actually available, because we've been wanting you for ages. Okay. I think one of the things that we haven't talked about is how our inner critics sometimes sit on our personal board of directors without being invited. And they kind of play the role of being the director of risk-averse decision-making. And they sometimes shout way louder than all of our directors. And they stop us from doing what we want to do in order to step up and show up and play bigger. And I think it's important for us to recognize that they do sit on our board of directors, but sometimes we need to be aware, a lot more aware of what they're saying, and intentionally give the other directors on our board bigger voting rights. And because I've heard quite a few of us talking about how we sometimes hold ourselves back. And I just want to explore this for a minute before we wrap up. And perhaps explore who else is sometimes on our board of directors that we don't realize is there, that we don't realize has taken up a role without us even realizing that they're there. And what strategies you have, other than just saying shoo, what strategies you have around making sure that you're aware of their voices and deliberate in how you listen to, discount, or put their voices into relation with all the other voices that you want to listen to. I don't know who wants to start that discussion. Thembeka.
Can it be the fearful perfectionist?
It can be. It's the fearful perfectionist. It's the green monster. It's the shouty Sharon. It's all the people that we've named as our inner critics.
Yes. So the voice, the inner critic that really I struggle with is you can't. Who are you to even care, to speak? So I am learning, and really credits to the program that I'm part of, the 𝗪𝗠 mentorship program, to say, wait, pause. Why not? If I can't speak, who says I don't have a voice? And it doesn't have to be a perfect analogy of whatever I'm saying. I just have to show up by being truly myself. This week when Damu was like, 𝗕𝗿𝗃𝗏, would you want to? I paused. And the first thing was like, no, I don't know enough about the topic. But then I stopped. Really, I'm teaching myself to just pause before I say no, and say, what are you doing? Why are you in the mentorship program, as an example? You're there because you needed to develop the person you want to become. So the first step is to come and take part in the open panel discussion. And if it's not perfect, it's also okay. So I'm teaching myself those, Brioni. I'm not saying I've got it right. I promise you, it's a conversation every day. And it's the two things. It's the fear and the perfectionist, because I'm so afraid that I'm going to get it wrong.
Yeah.
So, but I'm learning to just pause and say, no, what are you going to lose by showing up as authentically yourself? Just
Beautiful.
be 𝗕𝗿𝗃𝗏, and here I am.
Beautiful. Because one of the things that we've talked about as well is that the role of the inner critic is not just to say, stay safe. The role of the inner critic is also to say, you're at the edge of your comfort zone and I'm waving a flag, and you can either choose to stay safe and small, or you can choose to look outside your comfort zone and realize that by stepping out, you have an opportunity to step into where you're trying to get to. And so when we have this director of risk averse decision-making on our board, we can also turn that role into the director of take a leap of faith and grow. And it's how we choose to hear that voice that's important, and how we choose to go, what is it that my inner critic's trying to keep me safe from? And do I actually need to be safe from that? So I think the inner critic plays a really important role, but we sometimes don't know how to work with it and listen to it and decide what we want to do as a result of what it's saying. Carmel, Nkululeko?
From my side, I was going to say it's the risk manager as well. Always keeping you at bay, always letting you know the probabilities, what could go wrong, letting you know that this is out of your comfort zone. So for me, that's on my committee. Just always keeping you at the back of your mind, let's be safe. And no offense to any safety managers or risk managers here. So just from a personal point of view.
Yeah, they're staying safe for really good reasons, and then they're staying safe to stay small. And we've got to know the difference. Nkululeko.
I was gonna say because we've all done thermodynamics here. So your body
Have
and
we?
your brain. Oh, okay, majority. And to try to explain that that inner critic that is holding you, there's this concept in thermodynamics that's called entropy. And with entropy, the clever people are saying that, well, the way the universe is designed is that it's always chasing or wants to be at a state of zero entropy. So entropy is basically energy. So you naturally, you always wanna be at a state of zero energy, where you are not using any energy and you're not pushing yourself out. You're not in your outside your comfort zone. You want to be in your comfort zone. And again, to borrow from thermodynamics, I think it's the second law, which says, well, if you want to get energy, then you must put in work in that system body, right? And then once you put the work in, then that's when now the molecules and the atoms they start moving. So forcing yourself, like, number one, understanding that I'm at a state of zero entropy or zero energy, that it starts there, and then realizing that I need to put in some work, and I think that's where your what you call your board comes in. You know, if you've got the, you know, your anti-mentor, you're like, hey, but that person, he's always, you know, not doing the right thing, he's not moving, I don't want to be that. Then you start moving and, you know, trying to, you know, to progress. But I think that thing, it's biological, so it's not your fault. So if you feel you're sitting there, you're thinking, why am I so lazy? Why am I always, you know, defaulting to the things that I don't want to do? Is because it's nature. It's written in the laws of thermodynamics.
I think we've all learned something today. Thank you. And Donald.
Yeah, we were busy learning, Bryony. I think thanks for sharing that, Krulego. And I think I'm gonna go to the post you shared yesterday. You said that you can have the best of graduate programs, the great mentors and great support systems, but it's about what you do with what you have. So I'm so interested in what was your thinking when you're posting that? Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, it goes back to what I was saying earlier on, that the the currency in today's time is not your information, it's not your qualification, because you're competing with a lot of people. How many people have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering? How many people have their GCC mines, right? And how many positions are there, right? So for you to actually be the one who's selected for those positions, you have to be self-aware that that it's not, yes, it's important to have all those gatekeeping stuff, right? But it's about what you do with them, right? So then what you do with them is understanding that the currency of today is attention, right? Are you getting the right type of attention? You know, are you communicating this thing to the right type of people? You know, and you know, are you clear with your vision, and do you have sponsors? You know, so that was the thinking behind it. You know, to say, well, you can have it all, you know, but it's about what are you gonna do with it? Because another reason why I wrote that is, and it's a trap that a lot of graduates go into, where they start wanting to collect all these different certifications and qualifications and whatever. I'm like, stop it. Like, if you've got your GCC mines, you don't need your GCC factories. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you all over the place? You know,
now you
and
need experience.
yeah, because you are misdiagnosing what the problem is, right?
Absolutely.
The problem is not that you don't have enough qualifications or certification. Your problem is that you are not getting attention in the places where these can work for you. Right, so you need to start moving away from saying, okay, I got my GCC mines, but I'm not getting that position. Let me go do my MBA. Then you do your MBA, and then, hey, I'm still not getting a position. Then you go do an exam. I'm like, stop it. Right, take what you have and then try to move with what you have, and then see how far you can go with them.
The image that's coming to mind, and it's maybe because I'm hungry, is this cupboard full of ingredients, and going to the shop to buy more ingredients and more ingredients, but never actually taking the ingredients out the cupboard, putting them in a mixing bowl, stirring them all together, sticking them in the oven, and coming out with a delicious cake. And I think when you talk about another degree and another degree and another degree, that's us going to the shop to get another bag of flour and another bag of flour, but never baking the cake. So bake the cake. We all have the ingredients around us. We just need to do something with them. And I think you've explained that so beautifully, Nkululeko. I think we need to wrap up. And I'm very aware that we lost Nozipho somewhere along the way. And I've been checking to see if she's back in the room, and I can't see her name in the list. So unless Nozipho chimes in, now Pafu wants cake. Yes, I also want cake. Unless Nozipho chimes in, I want to say firstly, in her absence, thank you for showing up and trying to be here. I suspect the storm that's coming and load shedding has probably knocked out her ability to be here. And I want to thank everybody who's brought such great wisdom to this discussion. We've had this discussion 3 years in a row, and every year the discussion goes in a completely different direction. And I've really loved this conversation. And 𝗪𝗠, don't run away. You need to wrap up for us. And so I really just want to thank everybody for being here, and 𝗪𝗠 for being the sponsor of this panel, for bringing all these beautiful voices together, and for making this happen. For those of you who don't know, I had nothing to do with this, and 𝗪𝗠 made it all happen, so well done. And in 𝗪𝗠, I want to give you the floor to make some final points, to wrap up, and to close us out.
Sure. Thank you, Brian. I was rushing to the window to close it. I see this, yeah. Thank you so much. It was an insightful session. I really learned a lot, and I'm sure also the people who are also on this call have learned a lot. Thank you to our panelists for taking your time, your precious time, and sharing your pearls of wisdom with us, your experiences. It's really appreciated. And also, thank you to 𝗪𝗪, Women in Mining South Africa, for this opportunity, Bryony. I think a lot of us would prefer to stay in a comfort zone, but here we are, this hour busy talking. So it's really an incredible opportunity. So how can I forget 𝗕𝗿 and 𝗕𝗿𝗂𝗃? You ladies showed up and shined, and it's beautiful to watch you guys grow in the way you are. And thank you so much, and to all the mentors and the mentees who are in the call. 𝗪𝗪?
Thanks, 𝗪𝗪. 𝗪𝗪.
And I think I just want to, as a final word, just to say a massive thank you to Bryony and the entire mentorship subcommittee for an incredible year yet again. These open sessions are invaluable, and I mean, this is one of my favorite topics, and each year I join and I listen and I learn something new. So massive thank you, Bryony, and to the team. Ladies, I'm so proud of all of you, and 𝗪𝗠 and the entire mentorship subcommittee. So well done, and I can't wait for next year. So we hope to see all of our panelists back as well. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, 𝗪𝗪. It's a great privilege to be able to do this work every year, so thank you. I think with that, go forth and have a wonderful evening. Go bake cakes, physically or metaphorically, and see you back here for our next mentoring panel session, hopefully in the new year. Until then, have a wonderful rest of the year. Get the rest that you can. Be safe if you're traveling. I know it feels a bit early to be doing a year-end kind of farewell, but we're almost there. So thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful evening.